Welcome at Hamburg's Social Media Week at Kultwerk. I'm Tabea, I'm your host tonight. We now hear a keynote by Thaisy from Rio, the social web, a new voice for the residents of the slum of Rio. I'm very excited to hear from you. You know, this session is on live stream. So please mind, if you have any questions, you need this mic. So please wait until I'm with you and you can talk to it. Of course, you can Twitter about the session, and the hashtag is SMWHH, E meets Rio. It's very complicated. You can also use SMWHH as you know it. So let's start. Thaisy, we're excited. Thank you.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. I'm very happy to be here. It's my first time in Hamburg. So, my name is Thaisy. I'm 26 years old, and I came from Rio to speak a little bit about my history. And let's start. Well, I'm starting introducing the place where I came from. I came from Madureira, which is a very poor neighborhood in Rio. It's one of the most popular neighborhoods in Rio, and it's 2 hours away from Copacabana. So we used to say it's like a city inside the city. And what's the positives of living in there? Well, it's a very exciting and musical place because we have 2 of the major samba clubs in there. And it's also known by being the place where samba was born. And it has one of the major commercial areas of Rio, and people all over town go there to go shopping. And they sell in bucks, so it's cheaper in there, so it's another extra reason to go there. And we used to say, if you don't like Madureira, you are not a good person. You cannot be a good person. There's everything in there. And what about the nightlife? What about the fun? Well, we have one of the most popular nights dedicated to black music in there. And also one of the most popular gay nights. We also host the gay parade. So it all gets very colorful and fun. About the elections of 2010, what I have to say is, well, I was hired to work on these elections, and it was the re-election campaign for our current governor. And we had a lot of pressure from the media to see which candidates would bring the next social media case that could be compared to Obama's in 2008. There was that major case using the internet and social media communication. And all the candidates in the running to become the governor of Rio had a strong presence online. But almost all of them still printed paper flyers. And the paper flyers in Brazil, it's like, it's very common. It's like, look, this is my candidate, and you should vote for him. It's like, it doesn't even convince anyone on the streets, but they still print a lot of flyers. There's so many that you can see like an ocean of flyers on the floor, because people just see that thinking, okay, I don't need this, and threw it away on the streets. And Fernando Gabeira, was the sole candidate who relied only on the online strategies. And he was the second most voted in these elections. The first guy who won the elections was the candidate that I was working for. He's Sérgio Cabral. He's actually our current governor. And what I could notice was his priorities changing from the beginning when he started to working on this new running, beyond the improvements, the basic improvements that was in healthcare, in education, in transports, and in basic sanitation. He was noticing that people wanted internet access for all. And in Brazil, healthcare, education, and all the other items I mentioned are very poor because, for example, basic sanitation. The houses in there are not built, they're not planned to be built where they are, like on the hills. So they don't have the basic sanitation necessary, and people get a lot of sick because of it. So it was a priority, but the internet became another one. And as you can see in this news, the President Vargas Avenue, which is in the center of city and one of the biggest ones in there, it got free Wi-Fi right in June of 2010. So it was a major move for him. And people could connect to 15 megabits per second. So his next step was to put internet open Wi-Fi connection in the Morro of Providência, which is another big favela in there. And back in time, we could notice, since 2009, the Sérgio Cabral, our current governor, we saw the first efforts of the governor of state of Rio to fulfill the poor population's desire. He was up to the re-elections in 2010. Okay. And here we have a news from 2009 that says, Santa Marta is the first favela of Rio with free open Wi-Fi. And Santa Marta, you might remind, it was the favela where Michael Jackson recorded his video clip, They Don't Really Care About Us. So it's a very important favela and very big. And Santa Marta had approximately 1,600 computers, which is a big number for such a poor area. But only 36% of these computers were connected to internet. So didn't fully use the capacity of a computer. And with this free Wi-Fi zone, 10,000 dwellers received the benefit. But where to access? Well, for the people who didn't have a computer at home, the LAN house were a solution. And what was the LAN house? Brazil had this strong culture of cyber cafes there called LAN house. And it was a cheap alternative in the favelas and an expensive one in rich areas. And it's because in favelas they could charge only a small price because people in there really wanted to be there, really wanted to go connected. While in rich areas, everyone could have their own computers, and in what situation they would use a cyber cafe? Only in emergencies, when they are on the streets and they need to print some document or they need to check their emails, and okay, I'm gonna pay anything they're charging for it, but I'm gonna use this. So it was an opportunity charging. Okay. And what was so great about it for people in favelas? Why they choose to go to LAN houses? Well, teenagers mostly turned the LAN houses into their meeting place. Well, I went to a lot of LAN houses when I was younger, and then you have to fight for a chair in there because it was crowded with kids and with teenagers just screaming because of some game and some, I don't know, because someone said something on Mallorca, you should see this. It was fun. And usually they spend the single €1 they had to go online for 1 hour. And this €1 sometimes could serve for them to buy a meal or to get a bus, but they rather to be online. It was amazing. And this is the look of a LAN house in favela. As you could see, it is like a garage close to any house that anyone could improvise a place where they put a lot of computers and, okay, it's done. Let's get connected. And why so cheap? Well, these places were full with old computers that they could buy in second hand, and also they had slow internet because all the computers they put in were connected to the same network. And usually the owners didn't have an authorization to open the cyber cafes, so it was illegal. And that's why. People priorities in these LAN houses. Well, the main interest in LAN houses was to chat on MSN Messenger, to play video games, to use Orkut, that was the dominant social network in 2010, and to do quick researches on Google and printing documents. And how it was before Facebook? Well, Orkut worked as an initiation for people in the favelas to use social media. It had a model based on online forums. I don't know if it got famous in here. I don't think so. So it was pretty simple. People were in communities about their tastes, like I like my mom, and they started saying things about their moms, like my mom loves to cook for me. Yeah, mine too. What does she cook? It was silly. It was the first contact. And from 2005 to 2011, it was the most popular network in Brazil. The lack of innovation made it lose space to Facebook. Well, I don't know if you know, but Orkut was created by an employee of Google. So it had all the background of Google to grow up, but I don't know, maybe they didn't put enough efforts in there, and Facebook just kept growing and growing. And when they put the groups in Facebook, it was the final decision for Brazilians. And they went to Facebook. Well, the internet access growing. From 2005 to 2011, the minimum wage was raised from 3,000 reais to 4,500. That's right, you're so smart. It's something like 92 euros to 168 euros. It's pretty low. But we can notice how this power that the money gives to people, that it is connected to, it is related to people being online. The number of people online in Brazil grew 143.8% in 2011. In 2013, 53% of the population in Brazil still does not have internet access, which means we still don't have enough money. I'm going to show you why. This is how many work hours people need to do to get 1 megabits per second internet. In 2013, a Brazilian needs to work 5.1 hours per month to pay for a connection of 1 megabits per second. And the average price is 18 euros, while in Japan, for example, it costs 19 cents of euro. And Brazil taxes is one of the highest in the world, and it reaches up to 40% on the service price. In Japan, it's only 5%. And broadband fixed internet is 68% cheaper since 2008, and it's still very expensive to our reality. Because, yes, we have one of the highest taxes, but we still have one of the worst servers in the world. Comparison of price. Here I have a table with the hours of work to pay 1 megabit per second in 15 countries. Actually, I cut the last ones, but it's still, you still can have an idea. Argentina is the only one that has the internet even more expensive than Brazil. We had an explosion in the smartphone sales. It happened in the first quarter of 2013. it was 5.4 million smartphones sold in Brazil. And the low price, the flexibility to pay, the more attractive offers of database plans, it all helped to people pick, to choose to buy a smartphone. And people in Rio, they spent so much time stuck in traffic, it became an escape. We actually, it's not been so long, we were elected as the worst traffic in Brazil. Rio was elected. And so people spend going from work to home and back to, no, actually from work to home and back home, something like 5 hours a day. So while they are stuck in traffic, they just get connected and go to social media, and even if they want to curse, okay, this is terrible, where's the Olympic City? That's what we do. How many smartphones we have? Well, in 2013, Brazil became the fourth in total number of smartphones. It was 70 million, and we have a total of 2,000 million people in Brazil. And 1 in 5 slum dwellers has a smartphone. As you can see, it's not the best models available, but still they work for what they need. And the growth in sales of mobile devices started the fall of LAN houses' popularity, because they had the Wi-Fi, they had the device. Why to go to a LAN house? They get the privacy right in their hands. But the habits online were transferred to the new gadgets. 75% of people use it to access social media, while 68% still downloads apps of games. And here is my favorite part of this presentation, breaking barriers. How a video recorded in a favela could reach so many people. Well, here we have a very interesting example, because these 4 guys, they are MC Federado and the Lelex. And they decided to record a dance video. And the song is about spinning the wheel of a car for the right, spinning the wheel for the left. It makes no sense. And there's this weird dance, but okay, the official video has now almost 40 million views on YouTube. And let's see what they get with this.
Ah, leque, 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 leque. Ah, leque, 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 leque.
These are the first video recorded on a cell phone, and very simple one.
Girando, girando, girando pro lado, girando, girando, girando pro outro. No passinho do volante, quero ver o baile todo.
This is the second one. It's more professional, made with a camera, a compact camera. They had this special pose and people dancing in the background. It was professional.
Mas preste atenção, agora vou te ensinar o passinho do volante pra você também mandar. Leque, 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 leque. Girando, girando, girando pro lado, girando, girando, girando pro outro. Leque, 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 leque. Girando, girando, girando pro lado, girando, girando, girando pro outro. No passinho do volante, quero ver o baile todo. No passinho, no passinho, no passinho do volante.
And this is Beyoncé in Rock in Rio 2013. Singing to an audience of 100,000 people. She decided to perform the dance, and everyone was singing with her. This moment became news all over the world. But we still have more. This is Mercedes-Benz Class A commercial. They decided to use the spinning the wheel. A car under control, even if you do the step of the wheel. So, okay, that's enough. You don't know how to stop. Okay, let's go back. And what I want you to see is that they created this video maybe thinking about people in favela, but they got to reach people in the most luxurious condominiums in Brazil, because it was choosing to sell a car for rich people in Brazil. It's not almost anyone that I know have a Mercedes-Benz. So the first video of Passinho, that one recorded on a cell phone, had more than 2 million views on YouTube. Beyoncé presentation in Rock in Rio gathered 100,000 people. Is it correct? 100,000. Thank you. And it was also broadcasted live on TV, internet, and reported in many websites and newspapers all over the world. Only the Facebook of Rock in Rio has 1 million fans, more than 1 million fans. And Mercedes-Benz music choice brought up a discussion in social media about Brazilian funk. If a song from favela was the right one to sell luxurious cars. So you see, people wasn't satisfied about it. They had this enormous prejudice against the favela people. And they were like, no, people that buy these cars are not people from favela, are not people that listen to this kind of music. But when you see some funk guy, they are so famous that they are able to buy these cars, actually. So the marketing of Mercedes-Benz maybe was seeing this opportunity. We're seeing this new audience they had. And another example, the empowerment of favelas. Music was always been an outlet for residents of low-income areas to tell their stories. And social media has become an amplifier for these stories to be shared and heard. And here we have a very strong video that won a lot of prizes when it was released in 1999. And it's still very, very fresh for Brazilians. It still works perfectly. This one has subtitles, so you're gonna be able to see with me. Okay.
Depois eu falo contigo. Hein? Demorou? Então, bota minha filha na idade que eu venho aí. Mano. Vou descer, valeu. Ô, moleque aí. Vai aí, chega aí. Vai meter meu calimbar cheio de fome. Demorou? Vai meter meu calimbar. Vamos descer, cara. O menor tá com a urra, a gente vai tacar ele embaixo.
Aí, hoje é o gigante que decide. Qual vai ser da gente, gigante? Na praia.
Já é. Pega uma grana, ainda fala um biscoitinho no cabelo. Bota. Ai, meu irmão.
A minha alma tá armada e apontada para a cara do sucesso. Os pais sem voz, pais sem voz, não é paz, é medo. Às vezes eu falo com a vida, às vezes é ela que diz qual a paz que eu não quero conservar pra tentar ser feliz. Às vezes eu falo com a vida, às vezes é ela que diz qual a paz que eu não quero conservar pra tentar ser feliz. A minha alma tá armada e apontada para a cara do sucesso. Os pais sem voz, não é paz, é medo. Às vezes eu falo com a vida, às vezes é ela quem diz qual a paz que eu não quero conservar pra tentar ser feliz. Às vezes eu falo com a vida, às vezes é ela quem diz qual a paz que eu não quero conservar pra tentar ser feliz. As grades do condomínio são pra trazer proteção, mas também trazem a dúvida se é você que tá nessa prisão. Me abrace e me dê um beijo, faça um filho comigo, mas não me deixe sentar na poltrona no dia de domingo. Procurando novas drogas de aluguel, nesse vídeo coagido, é pela paz que eu não quero seguir admitindo. Às vezes eu falo com a vida, às vezes é ela quem diz qual a paz que eu não quero conservar pra tentar ser feliz. Às vezes eu falo com a vida, às vezes é ela quem diz qual a paz que eu não quero conservar pra tentar ser feliz. As grades do condomínio são pra trazer proteção, mas também trazem a dúvida se é você que tá nessa prisão. Me abrace e me dê um beijo, faça um filho comigo, mas não me deixe sentar na poltrona no dia de domingo. Procurando novas drogas de aluguel, nesse vídeo coagido, é pela paz que eu não quero seguir admitindo. Procurando novas drogas de aluguel, nesse vídeo coagido, é pela paz que eu não quero seguir admitindo. Me abrace e me dê um beijo, faça um filho comigo, mas não me deixe sentar na poltrona no dia de domingo. Procurando novas drogas de aluguel, nesse vídeo coagido, é pela paz que eu não quero seguir admitindo. Procurando novas drogas de aluguel, nesse vídeo coagido, é pela paz que eu não quero seguir admitindo. É pela paz que eu não quero seguir, é pela paz que eu não quero seguir, é pela paz que eu não quero seguir admitindo. É pela paz que eu não quero seguir, é pela paz que eu não quero seguir, é pela paz que eu não quero seguir admitindo.
So, yeah, it's a very strong video, and it worked as a tool of the nuns, because people in favela actually live this day by day. They don't trust in police. And this video shows exactly maybe the routine of people who are poor and needs to trust in police. And then yes, the social media, it just had this active part that music doesn't have, when people can post in social media what they see. It is like bringing the attention and the interaction for the announces, while music is a more passive form to consume these facts. You can see a music video, but you cannot interact this much as in social media. So they got a very higher voice And here a great example of the voice of slums. Here is a Twitter called Voice of Community, and I'm gonna tell you how everything began. This guy got 131,000 followers by now, but he started with 180, and tweeting about the police occupying the complex of Alemão, which is a complex of favelas in Rio, a very important one. And he was just answering his friends that were concerned about his security in favela during the occupying. And René Silva is the one behind the idea. He went from 600 followers to 1,500 in a day. The hashtag Voice of Community became trending topic in Brazil. He was saying things like, okay, the police just shot against someone, and now there's cars being set on fire, and it was pretty scary, but people were listening to him. He got really a big voice. And other voices online. Here we have the Observatory of Favelas Observatory, the first one with 17,000 followers, fans. And they used to tell people what is happening in favelas and questioning a lot why of this and why of this and why of that. Like, why is government taking people away from their houses to create a new bridge? Why? Is it legal? Because they feel like they are forgotten where they live. It's like no one is gonna stand up for us if the police is not trustable. What are we gonna do? And social media works in this line. And agents of networks to the young is the second one with 5,000 fans, and this one incentivate the young from favelas to use the social media as a tool to transform the place where they live, to use their ideas to make the favelas a place better to live. And Viva Favela, which means Long Life Favela, is like white pages. They bring opportunities in favela, so people see they doesn't need to feel like they are forgotten and they need to be like this. They have the opportunities to grow, and they're like, see how the opportunities are here, and look how these people got to reach into the other place. It gives also the examples of people who got the opportunities. So, the protests in Rio. I don't know if you got this kind of news around here about the protests in Rio. Okay, so it started in 2013, around June. And during one of the biggest protests in Rio, social media had an essential function to organize and help in the communication of these protesters. This is one of the major avenues in Rio. It's in the center of the city. It's called President Vargas, and there were millions of people in there just protesting. And why was that? Why did protests start? Well, the protests started specifically because the bus fare were being raised. It was 20 cents, but it was not only the 20 cents. It was the hashtag we created. It's not for the 20 cents, because it was far away from this. It was about the corruption. It was about the investments that government was doing in stadiums, not in new hospitals or in education, like creating new schools. It was about the benefits the government was receiving and people were not. It was about a bunch of things. And the police brutality was one of these things. People had the opportunity to fight against other dissatisfactions. And here you can see this guy, he's offering a flower to the police. And after this photo, he was shot with a rubber bullet. Police had this tear gas. pepper spray, rubber bullets, and the problem is, okay, it's non-lethal weapon, okay, but the tear gas they were using, for example, it was with the validate time expired. Is that how you say? It was expired. It was old, so it was offering people's health a big danger. They could kill someone with this, but they were not caring. They used anything to stop the protesters, and people asked for local residents around the protest areas to open Wi-Fi access so they could report what was happening in real time. So what we could read at this time on Facebook was just scary. People being hurt, there was maybe 2 photographers and cameramans that lost their eyes because of bullets in the eye. And they were shooting against groups that weren't even being aggressive. It was just unnecessary. It was just cruel. And how technology can help in Rio's development. At the same time technology develops, it gets more popular. It gets cheaper, so it gets more accessible. And people get connected and find online groups who search for the same solutions that they do. So together they are stronger. And if before they needed the press to be heard, with social media they have their own voice. The organization of events such as the protests become easier. And Rio has been living a lot of protests daily, and we still don't know the results of it, because very few things happened, like the bus fare that started the whole protest in 2013. It was only a delay of this bus fare raise, because it's now bigger already. And the big deal is now we know the path for claim our rights. We already saw that the social media is a path to the solution of these problems. And that's it. Thank you, everyone. Could I just say thank you to some friends that really, really helped me to be here, like Renan, Juliana, my boyfriend Alexandre, and Nizileni and Sam. Yes, Sam actually, he dared me to do something here. He said, "You are so nervous. I dare you when you finish your presentation to raise your hands and say, 'Go,' out loud, like celebrating a World Cup. Could you help me on it? Because I'm not going to let him win this one. Let's go, please, please, please. 1, 2, 3, go!" Thank you, everyone.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for your keynote. We now have 20 minutes time, about 20 minutes for questions. Are there any questions? Yeah.
I think I read you sorry, my name is Hauke Lorenz. I am studying journalism at the Hamburg Media School, and I'm working at TDIT, local community television. Mm-hmm. And my question is, I think you're working at an online platform, Globo, mm-hmm. and what is your work? What are you doing there, and how are you working with the information you get from the social media? How are you dealing with it?
Yes, I work at Globo, which is a big television, and actually is a group of media. We have a website, we have radio. It's a very important one in Brazil. And I work at Tech Tudo, which is the technology website of Globo. And we used to pay a lot of attention about what people is talking about, like what is the most downloaded app in this moment, and what are they complaining about the new cell phone that was released, and what is their doubts about the technology, because we work just solving these problems. Like we work to the consumer, actually, not for the market. So it's all about the consumer. Is it okay?
First of all, thank you for the talk. You showed us a long timeline of what's happening in social media. And do you see any change for the politicians that they start tweeting or start to go on your side and grab the tweets and see the problems and bring them to the politician or to the government directly? Is there any interaction now with politicians on social media? Or
actually, to be honest, I don't know if I should say this, but that's not the politics like to leading in Brazil. Sorry for breaking this fairy tale, but well, there are people working for them to help, but there are a lot of limitations on the answer they can give to people. They create some service where people can say the problem that are around them, and they will try to solve. But there's no a limit date to be finished. So people just get waiting and waiting for long, and nothing happens.
Well, according to this, you also showed us free Facebook fan pages, and if the politicians and also the police doesn't take care of it, it seems to me like the people who are using this Facebook fan pages, that they are connecting themselves and then that they are helping themselves. So at least it's still in a closed circle, but doesn't affect so much politicians and the police. Isn't it right, this?
Yeah, it doesn't affect the politicians, because they try to solve the problems by their own. It's like we have the power. We have the power to be heard. We believe there are people that can help, that can really help, and that will do something for us. It's not like we are gonna keep waiting for the politician to do something for us.
I have another question. Is there some kind of repression of the governments against movements that try to organize themselves in social media?
Actually, in social media, I mean online, like taking a web page out, like dropping a web page. How do I say this? Shutting the web page. No, they don't work like this. But they are paying attention to these movements that are being created online, and they say to the police to repress these guys like live.
Could you explain people a little bit about why Facebook and social media is so important for Brazilians once our capital is far away from everything, and they did it on purpose so nobody can get to our capital? And now that we have the social media, people really can talk, and the government is actually scared, because once we happen this thing with the people on the streets, our president, she called for a new constitution because of the Facebook. You remember that? So can you explain people a little bit about that? Because now people are getting closer to the government because our capital is so far away. So.
Yes. So in Brasilia, the capital of Brazil, when these protests started to happen, people they invade the Congress. So they climbed in the ceiling of the Congress, and they were like, "It's our house, it's not yours, and we are gonna put some order in here." But it stopped around there. It's like we actually are fighting for this power, but there's so many years of a difficult politic governing Brazil that is difficult to change from 1 hour to another. So the fight, it is helping. It is helping, and the government, they are afraid of what can happen, but they have the weapons to fight the people, and it is through the fear they are trying to threaten people more like this.
Any more questions?
And what do you think? What is going to happen in the future? How will social media develop in Brazil and these movements, and also the way you report and publish all these informations?
Okay, so there are two things in there. Actually, how these movements are going to develop. It's still happening, and it's still use the social media to gather people, to bring people together, and it works very well. So I think it can only grow. But they don't need any more of the press to tell their point of view. So it's independent. They can say whatever they are seeing, and people will be listening to them. It's like, I want to see what people that was in there is saying without any filter, without a filter of the media bringing the news for us. It's like a different credibility.
Is there also one project which starts to maybe organize the people inside of these groups? Maybe do you have an example where it starts to work, that people maybe organize their favelas better, or organize the cities, or like really not with the government, really in a self-organization way?
Yes, there are big ones like CUFA, which is it's like a central of favelas. They get a link between many favelas, and they got sponsored by major companies where these people from favela can choose. Do you want to stay in the criminality, or you want to have a career? Because in here it's everything for free for you. You can learn a profession. You can be someone. You can be much more than you ever expected. So they give people a hope. They give people an opportunity to get better. And they have sports, they have many kind of opportunities, and they are also improve the favelas itself, like in infrastructure and everything.
Hi, I was just wondering, a couple of the panels that we had earlier were about urban development, and whether in a big city like Rio there were noticeable changes in things like maybe how people move around, things like car sharing, generally sharing and stuff like that. Is there a noticeable difference because of social media, that people maybe share things more, or people use car sharing, or that it has any kind of impact on the development of the city?
It does. It does. When people overshare some problem, we can see that it's solve it faster. Social media has a amazing power in Brazil, and people are learning how to use it for themselves. And I think the sharing is very important in this way. Is that what you asked?
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, and whether there are any particular examples of, I don't know, like earlier we were talking about car sharing schemes and My Taxi, which is a way that people can book taxis that just happen to be around the corner. It would be interesting just to have like a comparison. I don't know, but because often there's a lot of talk about urban development and how there's a new age of sharing and people kind of reclaiming the streets, urban gardening, all the rest of it. I was wondering if there's a particular, out of all of these example projects that we often hear lots about, whether there's a particular trend in Rio where...
A particular trend? Actually... That was a tricky one. I was going so well. Yeah, by now I don't. Actually, there's not only one that just stands up. Actually, people just pay attention to everything. It's like it's actually so social that everyone can see everything at the same level, so you can get the attention for the problems equally.
I suppose the LAN houses that you were talking about earlier, in a sense, is, I mean, that's a sharing thing where people come together and share an internet connection, I suppose. That's an example.
About the LAN houses, what? I'm not following.
It's probably my British accent. The LAN houses that you were talking about earlier.
Yes.
I suppose that's an example of where people come together and share a particular
after
resource.
The LAN houses where people just come together. Is that what you want to know?
Yeah, well, it's just a general question, but I suppose to answer my question, the example you brought earlier about the LAN houses is maybe an example of where sharing is taking place.
I see. Well, as the LAN houses start falling with the popularization of mobile, people just it's like before. They are getting they are meeting at the same places as before the LAN houses came up, and then they are still using the social media to talk about the subjects that concerns to them and that brings them joy.
All right.
Are you able to reach people from maybe richer neighborhoods through social media, or interest them in your problems and goals?
Of course, because nowadays the problems of Rio, they don't reach only, some of them reach only poor people, but when we're talking about traffic, for example, it reaches everyone. It's like a problem for the whole city. And recently we had the demolition of a big bridge in Brazil that connected an enormous area, and it caused an impact all over the city. And people that were poorest, that the workers, they started complaining in the social media, and we could actually see people from the south zone of the city, that is the richest part, complaining together, because they know it's not a problem only for that group, it's a problem for everyone. But they also fight for different things, like a little more specific ones, like, well, we don't want a subway in our neighborhood because it's gonna bring poor people around here. We are so special. And they create networks, they create pages in Facebook, for example, to say their opinion. They're the two sides of this coin.
Hey Thaisy, I would just like to ask you something. Now you work in global. How do you think global, this massive journal, helps the people through the media, to the social media? I mean, like, do you think global is actually also moving to this social media thing nowadays? Perhaps ending with this massive television series and programs?
No, ending with the television programs, I think it's never gonna happen. But yes, they are online too. They are paying attention on what people are saying. They get some ideas and put inside in the television. They create this link between soap opera with a video online, and it's pretty mixed, yes. But what was the first question, actually?
So that was very bad. No, I mean, like, do you think global is doing the same job in the internet as it was doing, for example, with TV? I mean, it's like showing really the people what's going on through the internet.
Well, yes, the work is the same. The things that they say has these, it is connected, it is equal, yes, the content is the same. And people complain a lot about global, but as they have their voice, so I don't see why so many complaints.
All right. Any more questions? If not, I would say thank you very much.
Thank you,
Thaisy, for your time and that you were here. And yeah, we are finished today. So have a nice evening. And yeah, see you tomorrow.